4 minutes out from the start of this speech. Hi, everyone. First of all, I want to say, let's put this fellow away. I want to say, you're going to encounter triggering language in this talk. If you're an autistic person, or you love an autistic person, or you just have a high degree of empathy for all humans, so leave. Take care of yourself first. There's no reason to suffer. Suffering doesn't make you any stronger at all. It's not yours to witness right now if it's too much. So don't do it. Um, we're about 3 minutes out from this announcement that the administration has for us around autism. Uh, Before I get started on my quick remarks, I suspect it'll be late. I just want to let you know this is not a studio. In order for me to participate in this conversation, this is my house. I have a dog that might bark. I have a PDA child who's been told not to interrupt me. So if anyone knows anything about that profile, interruptions will probably occur. And I might mute my mic and let you all not have to be ear-attacked with that until it passes. So if that happens, just know that's my accommodation for being able to participate here with you. Um, so we've heard a lot of rhetoric around this announcement. I just want to put it in context right now as I understand it. So when we watch it together, we are sort of understanding who I am and where my eyes are on it a bit better. And I also just want to pop that up on my screen so I don't miss the start. I will stop yapping and let the orange man yap when he is afoot. So the administration is announcing today new initiatives concerning autism. They're expected to include raising concerns around acetaminophen or Tylenol in the market by pregnant women, and then a possible link to an increased risk in the population. This claim is, or has been so far, presented as gold standard of science, but the narrative is it's pretty old. It's a conflation of a couple different distinct concepts. Their position is reportedly based on a review of previous research that just suggests a statistical association between Tylenol and autism. There's a big difference between statistical association and causal relationship, right? Causation and correlation. An association just indicates two variables might be related, but it doesn't prove anything other than we might want to investigate it more. The administration so far, their rhetoric has deliberately been obscuring this important distinction, as they do, and then using terms like suggest a possible link and increased risk to keep themselves safe. They don't clarify what these terms mean exactly, that they don't prove a causal link. In the study I found leading up to this event, it was a 2024 study. It was a large-scale study. It was considered one of the two highest quality studies on the topic, and they found absolutely no evidence supporting an increased risk of autism, even when sibling controls were used in the analysis. So the analysis demonstrated the initial statistical association disappeared once the genetic and other parental factors were accounted for, which is what a lot of us say the evidence points to. Autism is genetic. It's a variant of the human genome, in my opinion. But we're about, I suspect, to hear otherwise from our president. And so, again, reminding you, I'm about to go into some conjecture. I'm about to say words. If you are not here to be playful about, not playful, but if you're not here to consider in an intellectual way what might be coming our way, the way the debate team might get ready for, an event. If you're not here to engage with some different theories about what might be coming and how we can refute it, then please take care of yourself and leave the stream. That being said, moving forward, my research turned up that there probably also, think about so far what we've seen. Everyone's trying to line their pockets. So why would they be doing this, right? In my opinion, vaccines are cheap. And so there's a couple different moles to whack here, ways to line your pocket. If you're heavily invested in a germ theory that we are too clean and we need to have some more robust immune systems by fighting parasites and fighting diseases and viruses more often, like we did in times before we were so civilized and so clean. I have autoimmune issues. That's a narrative, right? And there's a strong evidence for certain parts of that narrative. We'll get into that later. Fecal transplants are being used in some cases to reverse autoimmune reactions in the body. So that suggests something about our standards of cleanliness might have a detrimental effect on our immune systems. That's all it says. I suspect they're going to go with that to literally let disease and misinformation run rampant so that they can just develop drugs that treat the diseases that are now back, right? Because it's a lot more profitable to keep treating a disease people get in the community with a drug. And since these diseases have been eradicated for generations, it's not really too much competition in these areas. If you take away, my beating heart and my empathy for other people, I feel highly profitable to create some misinformation about that. Now, the autism industry is one of the most profitable. I believe it's edging on $1 trillion. Oh, let's have a dog break. I believe it's edging on $1 trillion right now. Speaking of dogs barking, it looks like the camera feed has started. So here remarks from the president. What's the and that gives me nothing. Well, it looks like he's still unwrinkling his panties for his live feed. So I'm going to keep on going with a claim I think the administration is about to make right now in moments. I think they're about to promote a drug called leucovorin, and Again, I don't know how to pronounce this. I believe this drug is like a folate-based medication. It's traditionally used in chemotherapy. And research on its use in autism has been super limited. Small, double blind, placebo controlled trials. Now, these studies have shown some improvements in communication and language skills, but in a small subgroup of autistic children. And these children also had a cerebral folate deficiency. That's a condition where the immune system makes antibodies that block the folate receptors, and it blocks folate from entering the brain. So that's my understanding of it. I supplement folate because I am a little mildly folate deficient, and I don't notice any difference between anything. Personally, I'm just one person. I don't know. Again, this seems to be an autoimmune condition, or a co-occurring genetic condition. I just uncovered the possible link to this press conference and this drug today. So obviously, we're talking about like a very small subset, and I believe that is on purpose. I believe the rhetoric is going to consistently try to separate the autism community and target the most vulnerable folks within our community who have the most difficulty and need the most support interacting with society. So right now, the drug is not FDA approved for autism. It is absolutely considered an off-label use of the drug in clinicians. Its administration requires strict medical supervision. It has side effects like irritability and hyperactivity, which we already struggle with as a community. By promoting a limited off-label medication as a broad spectrum solution, I really think these guys are just dividing us, isolating the most vulnerable, and then pocketing as much as they can off of the very profitable systems that support them. And I've never hoped I was wrong more. But I think, again, everyone's going to get thrown under the bus because the framework of this narrative is autism is a medical problem, a disease. It requires a pharmaceutical solution. Our identities are completely devalued. We're a segment. We're not people with lived experiences. And of course, that aligns with broader authoritarian themes of creating homogeneous conforming society. Now, we're probably about to hear some claims regarding Tylenol and leucovorin. Let me give the doggo a break. Okay. So I really hope I'm saying that right. Leucovorin. I think it's leucovorin. So everything we're about to hear probably stands in direct contradiction to all established medical and scientific consensus. Do not believe what you're about to hear if it doesn't align with what you already know. A lot of us project competency on leaders in ways we have no business doing, in ways they do not deserve. So assume this is going to be a cash grab. And I hope I'm wrong. But what else could it be? I do have, if this becomes difficult, I imagine the rhetoric is going to be really difficult for us who are sensitive to words. If it's difficult and you'd rather read about this, I do have an article that's scheduled to come out on Substack at 4:30. So that'll hit your inbox, or you can just go online and check out the Autistic Burnout Project Substack and read about this. There's also a link to a report I made in the form of a website, so you can sort of look over it, and it's organized in a digestible fashion. So I'm saying a lot of words right now, and if you want the details, at 4:30, head over to Substack, and then if you don't want to hear the words or the voice or the bad orange man, then you can also, peace out when this begins and head over to Substack. So that being said, and contents warnings being provided, I want to talk about the context of the speech you're about to witness. The political climate that has prompted this debate, whether the United States is indeed transitioning into some model of authoritarian system. This fits the framework. Again, we're just talking about theories, right? Among all these theories, there's probably a truth somewhere in the middle, but let's just consider how these narratives that we might be encountering align with the framework proposed by political scientists like Stephen Levitsky and Lucan Way. They describe a regime that maintains the formal trappings of democracy, elections, legislatures, courts, but where the incumbents systemically violate democratic rules to create a highly uneven political playing field. Well, when do we see this? We see this in redlining. We see this in all of the headlines lately surrounding the midterm elections. The playing field hasn't been even for a very long time. Now, people who argue that we're slipping into authoritarianism also argue that the politicization of government and bureaucracy is a key indicator of this transition. And what have we noticed in this second Trump presidency? We see a lot of podcast hosts and Fox News personalities, people that are not government employees, people who are from the private sector. And so we see highly partisan choices that are sometimes even unqualified. This aligns. Now, I don't want us to get too caught up in a narrative. We're not there yet. Even by people's standards that align to this narrative, I wouldn't say we're there yet, right? We've got resilient institutions still, but it's significant. Our slip into red flag territory is significant. So it's valid right now to feel weird. It is what the system wants is for you to give up. So it's valid to feel weird. But what we have to realize right now is that just a moment, I'm going to mute till the doggo works out her squirrel energy. Hold on. Okay, so I suspect we'll have some time to talk about the rhetoric in context of history that we're about to encounter. I'm sure he's running late. It's late afternoon, and the man's dying. I can't even imagine what kind of exhaustion. I was so tired when I had ankles that swollen from dysautonomia. I can't imagine he's participating in any significant way right now in governing. Anyway, it's easy to say we don't have a dictatorship. And like a frog in a pot, it's easy not to notice as layers of protection are peeled away. It's not a sudden collapse we're going to see, I don't think. We're going to see like this insidious erosion, right? This like gradual but never ending grab for cultural power. Uh, I don't think anything that happens is just one thing or just another thing. It's not about authoritarian power. It's not about targeting the most empathetic, weakest citizens who had the weakest voice. It's really always all come together in the same package. And without believing in one, the other loses power. So if we can have nuanced conversations like this about what we're about to witness and what we're about to encounter, we can prepare our nervous systems not to give them the fear and anxiety they need to move forward with this insidious erosion process, right? And I think not reacting to it and having the narrative fall into context of who it might serve and when it might come to serve them in history can help us process being the next victim of the rhetoric. And the rhetoric we're going to encounter is rhetoric. It's one dimensional. It's fallacy on a large social scale. They're going to get on this microphone and claim that Tylenol causes autism. They're going to identify things we have fought so hard for decades to have conversations about as a problem and blame it for creating some sort of like demon that possesses a person that's underneath the autism instead of just a differently presenting human being. And then they're going to propose a solution. They're going to propose a pharmaceutical treatment that can fix it. They can remove us from the normal human that must be underneath all of our shitty personalities. It's so not okay. The problem for those who aren't autistic or for those who've never encountered a neuroaffirming narrative is that we don't need a medication. We need a society that stops defining what makes us as a problem, right? Or a condition that has additional needs. A lot of us have gotten together and we've I don't think oh I don't think a lot of people realize, and this rhetoric I think we're about to encounter doesn't really address the fact that as it stands right now, most people diagnosed medically autistic, I believe, are level one, as they call it, low support needs. And I think the idea is that there's only a few of us, but we're talking over everyone. And the parents of those with greater support needs should be given more empathy than us. And if you check the statistics, it's the opposite. The marketing around people trying to sell cures to those parents of kiddos and caretakers of adults with higher support needs is providing them with a carefully crafted, lawyer worded narrative that, of course, suggests to their vulnerable and traumatized mind and their really open, wonderful heart that there's something that can ease their child's suffering in the world. And it's just one prescription. And like a miracle, they'll have a child they can communicate with and connect with and share experiences on a really deep level with. And I think that narrative is so predatory. It erodes the trust between a parent and a child trying to connect in earnest. And it compounds the grief narrative, which acts like a block to connecting in meaningful autistic ways. So when we're studying these drugs and we're studying Tylenol and we're having press conferences about this, we're not having press conferences about ways we can communicate more autistically with autistic people. Ways. Oh, hold on. Dot wants to communicate. So we'll just take a little break and I'll see if I can settle it. Okay, hi. If you're just joining us or you were waiting for me to come back, just to recap, we're waiting for the president to make an announcement on autism. We're going to watch that live. I have suggested that this announcement might involve autism, vaccines, and a drug called, let's see if I can pronounce it. Let's see. Leucovorin. Oh. I expect. So real life interruptions, real life human autism house. I expect that we're gonna hear all of these narratives around a drug they can sell, vilifying vaccines further because the legwork for something that could make Americans sicker with things that could be cured with profitable cures is already in place. So why not kill two birds with one stone and also sell some of this drug to a large swath of people? I'm sure it'll be used so inappropriately. It won't even be the leucovorin. Yeah, I think that's it. Leucovorin. I think that's how you pronounce it. So I bet that that's not even going to be used for children that are folate deficient or that carry this gene or that have a diagnosis that would require this as a therapy. It's probably just going to be used for everyone. I think if they were in any way invested in the company that made it, and I'm sure they are. I'm sure Marjorie Taylor Greene is buying stocks right now. It's probably, look, this is comedy. Okay, this is opinion. It's comedy. It's editorial. It's very, very much rooted in sarcasm and bitter trauma. But I'm sure Marjorie Taylor Greene is out buying stock right now in this drug, in the company that makes this drug. But what I'm saying basically is brace yourself if you have a neurodivergence to be thrown under the bus and hear so many upsetting narratives, because what you don't realize is it's not just a press conference. You might have healthcare professionals that believe this narrative, or have healthcare systems or insurance companies that believe this narrative and be compelled to take this medication. You may be compelled to take this medication if you are on SSI to continue receiving benefits. Who knows what they'll do? It doesn't matter. Autistic bodies don't seem to be seen as human in this model. We're capital. And since we don't produce as much for another man wealth because we tend to be unemployed, it's almost as though we have to produce wealth for a pharmaceutical company, and who knows what's going to happen. Hopefully there's no long-term studies on this in autism. So hopefully it's harmless. But I don't know that it is. I'm not a doctor or a researcher. And I don't want to be compelled to take it. If it comes to that, neither does my dog. So I think if you're seeking right now a counter narrative, or you're looking for further reading on this, a lot of the work of Kieran Rose, he's a researcher who writes under the name the pen name The Autistic Advocate. I believe that's also his website, The Autistic Advocate. He provides like a really nice framework for refuting this deficit-based narrative. Like, it really sucks that we have to have like a academic argument for being human, but here we are in the real world. Like, at least now we're having a real conversation instead of just hurling the marketing narratives of different research-based approaches to fixing us, right? Instead of shoehorning us into a system that is exploitative by nature, Rose argues, as many of us do, for broadening the system itself. The administration's rhetoric is going to perfectly embody the fallacy that we are broken, not normal, burden on society, something to grieve. They're going to claim Tylenol causes autism. Maybe even, there might even be like a class action suit, right? So you can cash in. Everyone can cash in a little, right? And then the additional needs fallacy, as Rose references, it's reinforced, is born, right? That's what it is. We gotta shoehorn them in. Take this. Imagine, like, I'm just imagining this like, you're grieving, you're weirded out, your kid's not meeting, developmental milestones. And then imagine being like in a busy marketplace and everyone's grifting, like trying to sell you something. You need speech therapy. Deficits in this. Here's the metrics. No, you need social skills. We have a program that's research based. No, it's folate. The president said the next cure is this liniment you put on your chest. It's a miracle. It's just so sad right now that in the midst of everything else, there's a cash grab for our suffering, for the profit to be made off of our suffering caused by the system that profits off of our suffering. And it's going to get worse. No matter how unproven this rhetoric is, because of the nature of the human mind, it will be repeated. It will be repeated and repeated and repeated, and it'll be repeated. And when it's done being repeated, they're going to repeat it, and it's going to be repeated, and then it'll be repeated, and then it'll be written, and then you'll see it, and then there'll be a graphic, and then there'll be a meme, and then it'll be repeated, and then there'll be bots repeating it in your feed. So even if you try to avoid it, it'll be repeated. And then it just starts being familiar to your neurology. And it suddenly has more credence, more credibility. Just shortcuts, logistic process. Imagine if you do encounter something in nature quite a bit, you'll take note of it, and it'll be somehow filed as true, right? Or like you've seen it a number of times. That's just how we interact with reality, and people know that, and the government specifically knows that and uses it all the time. The CIA uses it all the time. The Army uses it. There's a whole division of people that use it against other populations. And we know historically they've used it against Americans. But they promise they're not doing it now. They promise. Right? They're not doing it. Why would they do that? To sell things and become a billionaire? Have infinite power. That would be rude. So, of course, that's what they're doing. But hypothetically, what if this autistic researcher's right and we're humans and the system is actually damaging us, and all the money that the parents spent and the hours that the parents spent taking these kids to therapy, forcing these kids to go to therapy, making this kid's world revolve around appointments that reinforce the idea that they're not normal and they need to change how they are to stop having the appointments and have everyone leave them alone and consider them normal and human. So it's like most people are just born with a humanity, right? Like autistic people have to, for a system that only exists to extract wealth from labor. Really? I don't think it's Marxist to say facts. I don't think it's Marxist to say the capitalist system is based on the acclamation of capital. And so it's not rooted in seeing people in the working class as human. It really, if we're talking about a capitalist system based on free enterprise, it's not rooted in civil rights and in the natural rights of all men. And indeed, our founding fathers were really only talking about wealthy white landholders in the original documents that provide the framework of this country. It was the amendments that we made to those documents later that defined that we all have the same civil rights, at least on paper. But we have a narrative written by the winners. And a lot of people like to say the founding fathers would be turning over in their graves if they could witness Donald Trump right now and what has happened to their perfect union. And I would push back on that because a lot of people don't realize that George Washington was like a real estate baron. He was kind of the Trump of his time. This is a come to Jesus moment for people who are holding on to the disability narrative of autism as their identity. To hope for something more, right, than just being shoehorned into society. To hope for like an actual community experience, even if that's atypical or other experiences are atypical. Why don't we get to be a human, right? Because our system is based on capital, and so right now, I think there's another way to place what we're about to hear in history. There's the narrative that there's a clean, white, healthy, well-fed American. And anyone that doesn't fall into that category can be sold a pill or a cure to become that. And if not, then there's something seriously wrong with them. Maybe they should be somewhere that they can be taken care of with people like them. And in a way, we already do it. This isn't who we're becoming. Where do we keep our elders? Other societies keep their elders in positions of power. They keep them around, they ask them advice, they're still in the community cared for. What did COVID reveal about how we, as a society, treat our elders. What did COVID reveal about how we as a society treat the disabled? I don't think anyone could argue that we saw both the disabled and the elderly seen as expendable, disposable, somehow capable of less life, less existence, less right to breathe air. Literally breathe air. As ventilators became hard to come by in COVID, we decided who got to breathe air. And then the most vulnerable were left to suffocate to death without a ventilator, while those who still had value to the capitalist system, those who still had working labor left to offer, a more wealthy man who owns capital, who owns the means of production, they were seen as more worthy of living. And in some cases, I just found out the personal ventilators, medical equipment that people's permanent medical equipment they had from home because they're always on a ventilator. When they were brought into the ER, sometimes disabled patients, chronically ill patients on a ventilator at home, their personal ventilator was sometimes confiscated by them while they sat in a COVID-riddled hospital, and somebody deemed more worthy was given their durable medical equipment so that they could live. This is already how we treat people, right? We don't need... This is a good time to remind autistic people watching this stream, waiting for this announcement, that it's okay to need space from this. It's okay to not watch this. It's okay to not engage these narratives. It's okay to say, hey, I'm not ready to talk about this. If somebody wants to say something to you, you're going to encounter advice you didn't ask for, or hey, have you heard about this? And say, I have, and I'm not ready to talk about it. You don't owe anyone your suffering. You don't owe anyone a free lesson on ableism or being an ally. You don't. If like this makes you uncomfortable, just go walk away, do something for yourself. And I hope a lot of people are in really bad situations now with losing insurance, but if you have a healthcare provider that is pushing this narrative for you, like, first of all, hear them out, because I did a full report on this. For a small subset of autistic people, the drug I think they're about to try to sell to the country as a miracle cure, it might help, right? Like, obviously, we're going to talk about what autism really is, but obviously you'll still be autistic, but like also your brain might work a little less cloudy because maybe you do need folate. Like, hear them out and get a blood test. Don't just take it, right? They probably will do the thing that they do with psych meds where they're just like, well, it's easier to just take the drug and see how it helps. I can't say, oh shit, no, hold on. The dog can sense him. Let's mute her. You should be able to hear this tab, and you should get audio from the press conference.
Hello, everyone.
Brace yourselves.
Thank you very much. So I've been waiting for this meeting for 20 years, actually. And it's not that everything's 100% understood or known, but I think we've made a lot of strides. Wish it was done a long time ago. Today, we're delighted to be joined by America's top medical and public health professionals as we announce historic steps to confront the crisis of autism. Horrible, horrible crisis. I want to thank the man who brought this issue to the forefront of American politics along with me. And we actually met in my office, is it like 20 years ago, Bobby? It's probably 20 years ago in New York. I was a developer, as you probably heard, and I always had very strong feelings about autism and how it happened and where it came from. And he and I don't know, the word got out, and I wouldn't say that people were very understanding of where we were, but it's turning out that we understood a lot more than a lot of people who studied it, we think. And I say we think because I don't think they were really letting the public know what they knew. Thanks as well to the director of the National Institute of Health, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, FDA Commissioner, Dr. Marty McCary. These are great people. Administrator of the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, and Acting Assistant Secretary of HHS, Dr. Dorothy Fink. So thank you all. Thank you, Dorothy, very much. The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And I've always heard, you know, they say a few, but I think it's a lot less time than that. It used to be 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's 1 in 31, but in some areas it's much worse than that, if you can believe it, 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12. I was told that's in California where they have, for some reason, a more severe problem. But whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys. 1 in 31 overall. So since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000, and then you go to 12, you know there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child a Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all, but if you can't tough it out, or if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. The other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date, but I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. So
It's not herbal
ideally,
tea.
a woman won't take Tylenol. And on the vaccines,
gone to a
it would be
single
good instead of
appointment.
one visit where they pump
This
the
man
baby, load it up with
leaving women
stuff.
alone at the doctor.
You'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times.
Pump the children
I've been
4
so
or
into
5
this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible.
Oops, the truth
I
fell
also,
out.
and
can't
we've
afford
already
to
done
medicate
this,
them
we want
already.
no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine.
He's
The
old man.
MMR, I
He's
think,
just
should be
saying
taken
buzzwords
separately. This
right
is
now.
based on what I feel the
Crunchy tribal
mumps,
autism moms are afraid
measles,
of.
and
Now it's just like an
it's
SEO.
the 3 should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be
These
a problem.
phrases
So
are
there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it 4 for a while, it really was bad. So they make chicken pox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact.
I'm sure
So
this
let
is
those
lies,
be
I don't know.
taken separately. And then
I'm sure that
hepatitis
if
B
you're going to have a reaction
is
to a vaccine, you
sexually
might have it on the
transmitted.
person. Oh my God, here we go.
There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait
And
till
now
the baby
I'm
is
making
12
to
years
adulthood
old.
in Trump's
Then
America.
form and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country. The FDA will be updating the label of an existing drug to reflect potential benefits in reducing some autism symptoms. This gives hope to the many parents with autistic children that it may be possible to improve their lives. That's one of the things that I'm very, very happy about. I mean, this was mostly going to be on how not to have the child affected, but we've learned some pretty good things about certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby, and the baby can get better. And in some cases, maybe substantially better. Not going to be easy, but be a lot easier if it didn't happen in the first place, as these great parents fully understand, right? They fully understand. I feel so terribly.
Sundowning again.
I have so many friends with autistic children.
You're not naming it.
It's a tough situation. Finally, to help reach the ultimate goal of ending the autism fever, the NIH will be announcing 13 major grant awards from the Autism data science initiatives.
I'm gonna vomit.
And to be honest with you, to me, that's the least important. It's not even a money thing at this point. There's so much money,
It's a money thing.
but they have to do, and they have to move quickly. They
Gotta do money.
when the
and move
alternative is that nothing bad can happen, let's do it now. I was just saying to Bobby and the group, let's do it now. Nothing bad can happen. It can
forward.
only
Now,
good happen.
Bobby.
But with Tylenol,
There's
don't
so much
take it.
money.
Don't take it.
Don't take
And if
it.
you can't live, if your fever is so bad, you have to take one because there's no alternative to that. Sadly, first question, what can you take instead? It's actually, there's not an alternative to that. And as you know, other of the medicines are absolutely
The
proven
best
bad.
in a
they've
law
been
firm
proven
is
bad.
doing
The
Tylenol.
aspirins and the Advils and others, right? And they've been proven bad. So I'd like to ask Bobby to get up to the podium and say a few words, and then Dr. Bhattacharya and
Please don't.
Dr. McCary, Dr. Oz,
Dr.
Dr.
Butterf-
Fink,
go.
followed by two incredible mothers that have experienced firsthand what this country is going through, what parts of the world are going through. And I will say there are parts of the world that don't take Tylenol. I mean, there's a rumor, and I don't know if it's so or not, that Cuba, they don't have Tylenol because they don't have the money for Tylenol, and they have virtually no autism, okay? Tell me about that one. And there are other parts of the world where they don't have Tylenol, where they don't have autism. That tells you a lot. And I want to say it right now. And you know, the way I look at it, don't take it. Don't take it. There's no downside in not taking it. So I'd like to ask Bobby to come up and say a few words. I hope I didn't ruin his day, but that's the way I've been very strong on the subject for a long time. You know, life is common
ruined a lot
sense
of
too.
people's day.
And there's a lot of common sense in this, and I wish things like this were brought up, and this group has worked so hard on it, but I'd like to be a little bit more, a little speedier in the process of a recommendation, because there's no harm in going quicker. There's absolutely no harm. At worst, there's no harm. Thank you very much. Bobby, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. To meet the President's challenge, I ordered HHS to launch an unprecedented all-agency effort to identify all causes of autism, including toxic and pharmaceutical exposures. At President Trump's urging, NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS are turning over every stone to identify the etiology of the autism epidemic and how patients and parents can prevent and reverse this alarming trend. We have broken down the traditional silos that have long separated these agencies, and we have fast-tracked research and guidance. Historically, NIH has focused almost solely on politically safe and entirely fruitless research about the genetic drivers of autism. And that would be like studying the genetic drivers of lung cancer without looking at cigarettes. And that's what NIH has been doing for 20 years. As a result, we don't have an answer to this critical question, despite the cataclysmic impact of the epidemic on our nation's children. We are now replacing the institutional culture of politicized science and corruption with evidence-based medicine. NIH research teams are currently testing multiple hypotheses with no area off limits. We promise transparency as we uncover the potential causes and treatments, and we will notify the public regularly of our progress. Today, we are announcing two important findings from our autism work that are vital for parents to know as they make these decisions. First, HHS will act on acetaminophen. The FDA is responding to clinical and laboratory studies that suggest a potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes, including later diagnosis for ADHD and autism. Scientists have proposed biological mechanisms linking prenatal acetaminophen exposure to altered brain development. We have also evaluated the contrary studies that show no association. Today, the FDA will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change. HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. FDA also recognized that acetaminophen is often the only tool for fevers and pain in pregnancy. as other alternatives have well-documented adverse effects. HHS wants, therefore, to encourage clinicians to exercise their best judgment in the use of acetaminophen for fevers and pain in pregnancy by prescribing the lowest effective dose for the shortest necessary duration and only when treatment is required. Furthermore, thanks also to the politicization of science, the safety of
My
acetaminophen
body
against
just
the
like
risk
literally
of
caught fire
developmental
when he said the
disorders in young
politicization
children
of science.
has never been validated.
Can I talk over
Prudent
this
medicine,
asshole for a minute?
therefore,
Like,
suggests caution
there
of
is an antidote for
acetaminophen
this,
use by
even
young
within the
children,
toxic
especially
system, and that's
since strong evidence also has associated it with
just,
liver
you know,
toxicity. Some studies have also found the
tell
use of
myself that.
acetaminophen in
It's
children to
economic. We
potentially
have to learn how to
prolong
be sole
viral
proprietors
illnesses.
again, and we have to stay out of
FDA
the
will
system
drive
as
new
much as we
research to safeguard mothers, children, and families. In
can.
addition to a possible
Weaponizing safeguard
acetaminophen
mothers,
connection
children.
to autism for pregnant women, infants, and toddlers, our research has revealed that folate deficiency in a child's brain can lead to autism. We have also identified an exciting therapy that may benefit large numbers of children who suffer from autism. Peer-reviewed literature has documented that up to 60% of folate-deficient children with ASD can have improved verbal communications if given leucovorin. I have instructed NIH, FDA, and CMS to help doctors treat children appropriately. Jay will help tell that
I wish I was a betting woman,
which
because I got that right.
sound science, the kind that restores faith in government.
And again, I
The
have an
announcement of this announcement
infographic
also
and an
represents a
article on
historic
Substack already
collaboration
about
between
that.
NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS. We expect this to be the first of many announcements over the coming years that deliver actionable information to parents on underlying cause of autism and the potential paths for prevention and reversal. Finally, autism is a complex disorder with multifactorial etiology. We are continuing to investigate the multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the President mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. Some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists. But I want to reassure the people in the autism community that we will be uncompromising and relentless in our search for answers. We will perform the studies that should have been performed 25 years ago. Whatever the answer is, we will tell you what we find. We are researching this issue to all 3 agencies. Jay will discuss one of our research initiatives at NIH. This model of unleashing unbiased, depoliticized, gold standard scientific research and academic freedom to deliver actionable information to prevent and reverse disease will be a model for the framework to deliver similar results for many other chronic conditions that plague Americans. Jay?
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy, and thank you, President Trump.
Thank you very much.
I'm proud to announce today that the NIH has launched the Autism Data Science Initiative to turbocharge autism research, devoting an additional $50 million to the cause of studying autism. Nearly 250 research teams from across the country applied, sent in their applications, and were peer-reviewed by the NIH review panels. The NIH peer reviewers chose the 13 best projects focused on root causes and therapies, with replication and validation studies to guarantee gold standard science. The studies feature a new kind of science called exposomics, where scientists consider environmental and medical factors, nutrition, events during pregnancy, in combination with biology and genetics to answer vital questions about autism. Science like this, conducted in partnership with families and physicians, is the best way to arrest and reverse the autism epidemic. Autism spectrum disorder encompasses a very wide range of symptoms, ranging from mild difficulties with social interactions to profoundly autistic children who experience severe disabilities in speech and behavior. Given this wide range of symptoms across the spectrum, it seems certain that there will be a wide range of biological contributors to explaining the cause. The great thing about the new NIH initiative on autism is that scientists will use rigorous advanced methods in causal inference, machine learning, organoids, and other fresh approaches to the problem. The sharp rise in the prevalence of autism deserves an urgent response by the scientific community. As Bobby said, the NIH has invested a lot of money to study autism over the years, but the research has not produced the answers that families and parents of autistic children deserve, and autistic children themselves deserve. For too long, it's been taboo to ask some questions for fear the scientific work might reveal a politically incorrect answer. Because of this restricted focus in scientific investigations, the answers for families have been similarly restricted, often pointing families to behavioral therapies that don't work for every kid or suggest non-modifiable genetic factors as the cause. But genetics alone can't explain such a sharp rise in autism prevalence over just a few decades, as the President said. In coming months and years, as NIH scientists learn more that can help autistic children and their families, we won't delay. Like scientists often like to do, I can say as a scientist myself, it's really tempting to delay, but but in face of a problem like this, you have to move fast. But we will not delay before telling American people about what we find, and we will win the public trust with transparency and rigor. Already, our broadened focus on autism research has pointed to 2 items that will help families prevent and treat some cases of autism. I'll leave the good news on these 2 items to my close friends and colleagues, Dr. McCary and Dr. Oz. We've been working together closely on this problem for the past 6 months, and our cooperation represents an unprecedented collaboration with Secretary Kennedy's Department of Health and Human Services and with President Trump. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Marty McCary, Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, who will tell you about these announcements of practical help for families with autism.
Great, thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Mr. President, this is the start of a historic shift in medical culture. This administration is working together to ask big questions about why our nation's children are getting sick so fast. Too often, medicine is doing small little studies, giving us answers we already knew. But we've got to make a difference. You've given us a charge to identify root causes, and we are not going to stop so that we can end the suffering we are watching. And if you've seen a kid with autism, with severe autism, it's hard to watch. Kids get frustrated, they get angry, they can be crying because they want to speak and they can't speak. It's hard to watch, and it may be entirely preventable. For an epidemiologist, that child is an expanding statistic. But for a child, it can be brutal to have autism. Today, the FDA is taking action to update the label on acetaminophen and sending a letter to all U.S. doctors letting them know about the risks in pregnancy. We now have data we cannot ignore. There's a very large study, the Boston Birth Cohort, with researchers that have, from Johns Hopkins, my former institution, and Boston University, found, quote unquote, consistent associations between acetaminophen in pregnancy and autism. And the Nurses' Health Study, with researchers from Yale, Columbia, and Harvard looking at 9,000 kids, found that acetaminophen use in pregnancy was associated with neurodevelopmental disorders. And 4 weeks ago, a Mount Sinai Harvard study reviewed all the existing literature and found the overwhelming body of evidence points to an association. Sure, you'll be able to find a study to the contrary. That's how science works. But to quote the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, there is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. We cannot wait any longer. And honestly, there's been this perfunctory, reactionary, mindless practice in medicine. I learned it in medical school and residency. Just treat all fevers, low-grade fevers, treat them with acetaminophen. Why? What are we doing? A study out of Hopkins actually showed that treating a fever can prolong the duration of illness in a young kid. Maybe that's because a fever is a body's natural way of ridding an infection. When my wife was pregnant and delivered our son a few months ago, they pushed her to take acetaminophen for a low-grade fever. She said no, and then they looked to me and I said, absolutely no. I'm also here to announce good news. Today, the FDA is filing a Federal Register notice to change the label on an exciting treatment called prescription leucovorin so that it can be available to children with autism. You know, autism may also be due to an autoimmune reaction to a folate receptor on the brain, not allowing that important vitamin to get into the brain cells. It's a fairly established, mature pathway. Again, we have a duty to let doctors and the public know we are going to change the label to make it available. Hundreds of thousands of kids, in my opinion, will benefit. One study found that with kids with autism and chronic folate deficiency, 2/3 of kids with autism symptoms had improvement, and some marked improvement. Mr. President, you told us to do what's medically right, to go bold, and not worry about the corporations and the lobbyists. So that's what we're here doing today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Marty. I think you all appreciate the passion in the President's voice. We've been hearing that since the inauguration. In fact, even before the inauguration, the President was upset about what he spoke to today. And so together with Secretary Kennedy, who's made it his life's work to address some of these challenges, they challenged us. In fact, they were harsher than that. They wanted no silos to break down what the NIH would do, what the FDA would do, what CMS would do. They insisted that the physician leaders bust through the clutter because their agencies had the power. If we didn't do what every other prior administration had done, which is to let people function within their siloed environments. Because of that, in historic fashion, in a very accelerated manner, we have a response today to the autism crisis. It is the first of several chapters, but this is breaking news. You've heard some of it. The response to the autism crisis is going to continue to come to you under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, and the President wouldn't have it any other way, as you've heard. The FDA, based on NIH research, is approving prescription leucovorin for treatment of autistic children. Now, if you're following the script, there should be two questions that you have, two questions that should come to your mind. The first is, how will patients and parents get access to the treatment? I'll tell you how. Over half of American children are covered by Medicaid and CHIP, government health insurance, over half. Therefore, because they're covered in Medicaid and CHIP, upon this label change by Marty, state Medicaid programs in partnership with CMS will cover prescription leucovorin around the country. It's yours, but you have to go to a doctor to get a prescription because they know your child, they know you, and they know the medication. States will also have tools to monitor its use and ensure appropriate utilization. That's important for a bunch of reasons, because we want the right kids getting the right prescription medications. We believe private insurance companies will rapidly follow our lead if they have not already done so. And again, to make sure that this is safe and effective treatment, you need a physician to prescribe the medication because it's on prescription.
There's a link
Second big question.
to the science on this medication.
How are we going to collect clinical data to answer the big questions that the President's asking and the Secretary insists that we offer? CMS is also issuing guidance to convene states and existing research networks to support NIH and FDA in their research efforts of prescription leucovorin, while also maintaining the privacy of all patients, all health information of our beneficiaries. Collecting real-world data, which is what many of you have been asking us to do in the community, is fast. It is life-saving, and we'll get answers based on what happens over the next few months with this approach. The aggressive approach, and it is aggressive, demanded by the President and by the Secretary, have already identified risk factors and opened the door for the first FDA-recognized treatment pathway for autism. It is the first of its kind, and it wouldn't have happened without the leadership of the President and the Secretary. The fivefold increased prevalence of autism over the past 25 years demands a rapid response. The average clinician, researcher, we spoke to many, thought it would take 5 years to get this data. Parents are unwilling to wait 5 years. The President is unwilling to wait 5 years for these results. So the President and Secretary are acting today with this tri-agency move. The administration's bold actions investing in groundbreaking research follow the science,
I can
They restore
digest.
trust,
And
which has been lacking, and they will change the
there's a
trajectory for
difference in
millions
how I
of American
feel, and I
families.
don't need to
Mr. President, God
know,
bless you for being brave.
and I can't also eat
Let me introduce
certain
Dr.
foods.
Fink, who's acting administrator, and after Dr.
And
Fink,
most of
we've
us
got
know
some
that.
wonderful
Most of us
women,
know what we
Jackie and
can and
Amanda.
can't eat, and we
I
can
know it's going to be
correct
tough, but
any
if you can make
folate
some comments about this
differences on
historic
our
day, God
own.
bless you.
This is a cash grab,
Thank you, Mr. President, for this
and
opportunity
it
to
fits
speak with all of you
into
today.
a long
As a
history of
pediatrician and mom,
authoritarianism
I'm here
and
today to talk
eugenics
about
as
what
a
this
tool for
announcement
that
means for the
authoritarianism.
millions of moms and dads
It's
who are
rooted
faced
in
with
the
the
very
choice of whether to take
to celebrate
acetaminophen during
and the
pregnancy.
definition of the autism
It's
diagnosis.
hard to hear information
Can't
that
separate
challenges the
autism from
status quo.
authoritarianism. You just can't.
We are sharing this information not to confuse, but to empower parents to make the best choices when taking medications during pregnancy.
They always say what they're
We are
doing.
all concerned about
That's
the rising
exactly what
rates
they're
of
doing.
neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism. President Trump and Secretary Kennedy are dedicated to radical transparency so that patients have the best,
I
most
hate it.
up-to-date information. We are also sharing this information with our nation's doctors, and we encourage you, as always, to consult with your doctor to make the best decision for you. All too often, it's easy to think
Our
that
lawyers
medicines
told
we
us
buy without a prescription
we're going to use
pose
all this
little to no
vague
risk
marketing
to the mom
language,
or the
talk
baby.
about associations
As
mostly,
you heard today,
and then
pregnant women who
pass
need
the
high fever
liability
or
off to
pain
the family
reduction during
doctor
pregnancy
who will be
should take the
influenced by
lowest
our
effective dose of
recommendations.
acetaminophen
And by
for the shortest
influenced,
possible duration.
they mean compelled.
Most
Right?
women will not meet these indications during their
I
pregnancies.
mean, I wasn't wrong about the first thing.
I am encouraged by these developments today because it is another example of our commitment to the American people to leave no stone
People
unturned
that think like this.
in improving the
I
health
understand
of our nation's children.
this thought.
Next, I'm going to turn it over to some incredible mothers who are going to share more about their
Oh,
stories,
and now
and
we're
we're so
going to
grateful to have you here
weaponize the
today.
mothers. I'm going to go off screen so I can try not to
Thank
people
you.
it
Thank you,
off.
Mr. President and team, for all your
I
work.
also don't want to talk
This is
over or like
a
mock
historic
these
day. I'm
people
thankful to
who
be
are
here.
being
I have
used
a son who's 5 who is
for profit.
profoundly
Because they're
autistic.
breaking. It's not their
And
fault.
you've probably heard, if you've met one autistic child, you've met one autistic child. It's a spectrum, which I don't think the spectrum is helpful, but that's another conversation. He is an amazing little boy, a blessing from God. He's marvelous. He can count to 1,000. He knows all of his letters and the sounds they make and a word for each one. But he also has a lot of obstacles. He is nonverbal. He can say those numbers and letters, but there's no communication. Unless you've lived with profound autism, you have no idea. You have no idea. He, like you said, he will get frustrated because he can't speak. It's not even that he can't speak. Sometimes he just doesn't understand what I'm saying. He understands the word no, but he doesn't understand the why behind the no. And that's a huge part of discipline. That's the discipline. So it's very hard to discipline a child with autism so you have these behaviors. And it's a very hopeless feeling. It's very isolating being a parent with a profound autistic child. Even just taking them over to your friend's house is something we just don't do because, again, they're going to be met with no, 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 and no understanding of why. And then there's a meltdown. And then you're in a situation where you're just helpless and you're just trying to protect your kid. So it's just better not to do it. You learn your limits, and it's been really hard. This is amazing that we're here today. And no one has been able to point to anything to say this is what caused it. And you can't point to that and say it didn't cause it. I have no idea. I am completely open. I'm not blaming anything, but I'm open to the discussion and the fact that there's work being done to find answers. I'm very grateful. I was already excited to vote for Mr. Trump anyway, Mr. President. But when we got word of RFK doing his work, I was ecstatic. I could not wait for this work to be done, that somebody would try to find us some answers. I'm just very grateful. I pray for my son every day, and hope that he can get the help that he needs. And just thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny. You take care of yourself. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jackie. I'm also extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here and share my son's story. My son is Eddie. He's 11. He's on the opposite end of the spectrum from what Amanda just explained. He's considered high functioning. He was not always high functioning. He was nonverbal till the age 4. We've had quite a hard time to get to the place where we are today. I am just so grateful to President Trump and the entire administration for finally listening to moms who have been crying out for help, for answers for years. I've met so many other moms with children on the spectrum in the 9 years since my son's diagnosis, and they all have very similar stories, and they've all just wanted somebody to listen, to not ridicule them or look at them like they were the crazy people. It's hard when you don't have doctors that take the time to really listen and find out when the change happened and what change happened. And it's just, I've been praying for this day for 9 years, and I'm so thankful to God for bringing the administration into our lives. And I'm speechless. This day is a day I never thought would happen. I thought that we would never have an administration that was courageous enough to look into things that no prior administration had. So I'm just here to express my gratitude, and I am looking forward to what comes from this, and hopefully we just get more answers. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So I just want to say acetaminophen is basically Tylenol, essentially, because I noticed that term is used throughout this conference. So it's essentially Tylenol. And I just recommend strongly that you don't use Tylenol unless it's absolutely necessary. I understand it's maybe 10% of the women that are pregnant are, would perhaps be forced to use it. And that would mean you just can't tough it out. No matter what you do, you can't tough it out. So that's up to you and your doctor. But there's a very strong recommendation, maybe stronger from me than from the group, because they're waiting for certain studies. I just want to say, I want to say it like it is. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. If you just can't, it's just fight like hell not to take it. There may be a point where you have to, and that you have to work out with yourself. So don't take Tylenol. Other things that we recommend, or certainly I do anyway, is, and it's so important to me to see the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine. Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the delicate little body of a baby. Even if it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just break it up into, I would say 5, but let's say 4 visits to the doctor instead of 1. And certain things I think you should do. We've already taken out and are in the process of taking out mercury and aluminum now. You know what mercury is. You know what aluminum is. Who the hell wants that pumped into a body? And there were rumors about both of them for a long time. But we're having them taken out. We're having them taken out of the vaccines. Hepatitis B, again, that's sexually transmitted, and we think you should wait. I think you should wait till 12. I'm making these statements from me. I'm not making them from these doctors, because when they talk about, different results, different studies, I talk about a lot of common sense, and they have that too. They have that too, a lot. But I recommend the hepatitis B. Take it at 12. Sexually transmitted. You don't have to give it to the baby when the baby's 2 years old, and there are a lot of theories on that, but not when they're 12. Doesn't seem to be a problem at all. The MMR and the chickenpox. Chickenpox has already been broken out. It's a singular shot, but the MMR is not. And I've heard for years that there's a problem with it. But they say that there's no problem if you do each shot separately, not put together. So an MMR, go out and do it separately. Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby after the baby's born. Every time the baby gets a shot, the baby gets a shot. They say, here, take a cup of Tylenol. I've heard that for years. Take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't have your baby take Tylenol. Now, Tylenol is fine for people that aren't pregnant, that aren't in the situation that we're talking about. One very specific situation. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. When you have your baby, don't give your baby Tylenol at all, unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't do it. Break up your visits to the doctors. Break them up. Do it in 5 if you can. Now, it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient. Oh, you're going to have to go back another year later. You're going to go back each year for 4 years, 5 years, 3 years. Just break it up. Break it up, because it's too much liquid. Too many different things are going into that baby at too big a number. The size of this thing, when you look at it, it's like 80 different vaccines and beyond vaccines, and 80. Then you give that to a little kid. I mean, I can tell you that I had a woman who worked for me, a beautiful, wonderful woman, worked in Trump Tower, and she had the most perfect child. Beautiful, just perfect. And I remember this little blonde-haired boy running around the lobby of Trump Tower, so healthy and so vibrant. And I said, that's great. And one day I came in and she was crying, her eyes out, behind the counter. She worked at the front desk. She was crying her eyes out. I've never, as much as I've ever seen anyone distraught, she was. I said, are you okay? What happened? My boy, I've lost my boy. What does that mean, your boy? My boy, you know him, sir. You've seen him grow up. He was so beautiful. And I took him for a vaccine, sir. And he developed this unbelievable, I think she said 107, 108. You know, it goes well beyond when this happens. It goes up to 106, 107, 108. You know, we hear 105 and you're in trouble, but it just goes up to a level that you never hear about, but it goes up very high. And it's fried. They get fried. She said, I took him, he developed an unbelievable temperature. And I've lost him, sir. He's gone. And then I saw the boy. It was so tragic to see. That was the following day. That was the following day after the vaccine. And I've seen it 2 other times, and I think 3 other times, but 2 other times, where they go to the doctor and they get the vaccine, they get the shot. The kid is, badly hurt. Let's be nice, badly hurt. And just do it. Break it up into 5, break it up into 4, break it up into 3 if you have to, but go to the doctor 4 times instead of once, or 5 times instead of once. And for some reason, they insist that you put it all into the body, and maybe that's the drug companies that make more money that way. Maybe it's the doctors because they don't want to be, doing this so much. Maybe it's the doctors. They get maybe more money. Who the hell knows what it is? Don't do it. Get them broken into 4 or 5 visits. Do it 4 or 5. That means you have 20%, 25% what you're putting into the baby's body.
We gotta balance this budget.
It can only help.
Too many
and the other
infants
things
are
I told you
surviving
about,
childhood. Let the weak ones die.
The word
Let's
tough it
space
out.
out
It's
the
easy for me to
vaccines.
say
Let
tough
the
it
weak
out,
ones
but
die.
sometimes in life, with a lot of other things, you have to
Before they
tough
die,
it out
we'll
also.
make money
Don't
off
take Tylenol. Don't give
giving them
Tylenol
for whatever
to the baby.
give them.
When the baby's born, they throw it at you. Here, give him
They
a couple of
die of it.
Tylenol. They give him a shot. They give him a vaccine.
Oh, my
And every time they give him a vaccine, they're throwing Tylenol.
My kid wants to go
And
to the
some
store.
of these babies, they're long born, and all of a sudden they're gone. And it doesn't hurt not to do it. It doesn't hurt. There's no downside. There's no downside at all. And break up MMR. Break it up.
Is anyone
It's
else?
practically a known fact that if you break it up, you're not going to have a problem. But for years, we've been hearing how bad MMR is as a combination. And I'm very happy that you broke out chickenpox, because that was really a problem. And there are other things. It's interesting because there are other things, we were talking about it, other different drugs, pills that you take that we know are so bad and they don't take them anymore. But for some reason, with this, they keep taking it. Don't take Tylenol.
Oh my God.
There's no downside. Don't take it. You'll be uncomfortable. It won't be as easy, maybe. But don't take it. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. And don't give it to the baby after the baby is born. And you know what? We have more than 3 years left. And I told Bobby and the doctors behind me, and they are so committed to this, I told them that this is the number one thing I want to do from you. And you know, we have something else called Favored Nations, where I'm going to be reducing
Robert
drug
Kennedy
prices
was
by
also committed to
1,000%.
heroin for
By 900, 600, 500, 1,200. We're going to be reducing drug prices at levels never seen. It's called Favored Nations.
Look, I'm not devaluing him.
Right now,
I'm just
we're like the garbage
he
can
has a
for the
history
rest
of
of the
being
world,
devoted
and we
to
have
it.
been for forever. We pay much higher for drugs than the rest of the world. We subsidize the rest of the world. We're not doing that anymore. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing. That's bigger than anything. I told the story the other night that I was so proud in my first term that for the final year, drug prices went down 0.25%. And I was so proud. I said, why? I'm the first one to do it. I think it was 28 years, they said, where drug prices went down from the beginning of the term to the end. And I was so proud. I called a news conference. I said, you know, drug prices have gone down. First time it's happened in 28 years. You know what it was? 0.25%. I was so proud. Now we're going to have them go down from $100 a pill to $9 a pill. From $1,300 for a shot.
Oh God, he's starting with the numbers again.
Like an Ozempic or
No.
the fat.
No more numbers. No numbers. No. Who put numbers on his teleprompter?
Sometimes it works, I guess,
Stop.
for people. The ones I've
Stop
seen,
it.
it hasn't
Stop.
worked so well. I got a lot of friends, they're fat. They said,
You know,
yeah,
the
I
fat guy's
lost some
a
weight. I
fat
said,
friend.
you don't
He's
look up
fat.
to
The
me.
mythical fat friend.
But they pay $1,300, $1,200, and they go to London and they pay $88. And they call me, they go, what's this all
Robert
about?
Kennedy can't stand any longer.
We're subsidizing the rest of the world stupidly because there's a lot
Imagine
of
like
stupid
what
people in
his
this
little
country
body
running
has been
things.
through. Like, let this
And how
man
big is
sit
that?
down.
To me, that's nothing compared to autism. I see that gorgeous boy. I have a
Well, the
big
redhead
present for
is.
him in the back. You
Look
know,
at her
you
face.
bring him back. We're going to bring him into the Oval Office. I have the best present he's ever going to get, okay? A big one. I saved it for you, okay? Because I heard you were coming.
Do I smell
How
big
beautiful he
enough?
is.
Do I still have
So-
filler? He said I had to
That's
get.
it. There's nothing much to say. Don't take
He's not- I
Tylenol
promise
if
you
you're
that's not
pregnant.
it, even
And
though I
don't
wish it was
give
it.
Tylenol to your child when he's born or she's born. Don't give it. Just don't give it. And we're going to have, I think, really, if you do all the things that I say, break it up. Just break it up. Break up the shots with the doctor. MMRs, as I told you,
We
separate,
had to be
separate,
reminded
separate.
that women are not
Chickenpox
indeed
already separate.
manufactured in those
You do these things.
hormones.
I'm
Yeah,
telling you,
public.
I want to, when I
Like-
leave office,
Boys.
I don't want to have, it's going to be the kind of number that we're hearing where it's 1 in 32 or 1 in 10, because I've heard 1 in 10 also.
Oh, here comes the numbers again.
And in California, it's really bad. I want it to be, let's get it back to maybe 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 20,000 or maybe none in 20,000. And the only way you're going to do that, because this is artificially induced. This is induced by something. You don't go from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 10,000, then to 1 in 10. That means you're taking something and something's wrong. And I feel very certain, and I know I'll be criticized. Someday they'll look back and they'll say, well,
Even
it
he's
wasn't,
done.
but I think
He's
it
like,
will.
oh,
I think we're going to have a tremendous, I
bullshit
want this one of the
ways.
most, this
Oh,
is the most important. There's nothing more important than me. We cured inflation that Biden gave us. He gave us so much inflation, the biggest ever in history.
received for that.
We got inflation done. We brought prices down. We gave you the largest tax cuts. All that stuff. It doesn't mean a thing compared to what we're doing today.
Forget Obama.
This means everything. So we're going to save a lot of children
Look at Hillary.
from a tough life, really tough life. We're going to save a lot of parents from a tough life. Okay, how about a few questions? Let's just make it on this
no,
subject.
thank you. No
This is so
questions.
beyond
No questions or no
as
thank
a
you.
subject that I'd rather not talk about, some nonsense
so
on
talk
the economy.
about
And
it.
I will say
Talk
this,
about it.
the economy is unbelievable. The stock market just hit another record high and all that stuff. This means more to me. Yeah, please.
I have one on your
my God,
announcement
do I
of
do
vaccines
that?
that's also related.
Yes.
Do I do that?
Why do you think we haven't heard more previously about the tie to autism in acetaminophen?
Nobody knows. I don't know.
She's so brave.
Not only that, when you say it, you get attacked.
She's so brave.
I was saying something similar,
She's like,
not as
hey.
strongly, because now facts are
Hey,
on our side.
this is so right.
But
How
I was
did
saying
you
it with
not know
Bobby
how
20
racist
years
was?
ago, and I was
This is
attacked.
so
I said,
great.
whoa,
So
what was
great.
that all about? I had no idea.
Whoa,
You
what
get
was
attacked. I don't know. The medical community, the drug companies, doctors, I don't know what it is. All I want to do, I don't care. I don't care about being attacked. It doesn't matter to me. I believe that the numbers at the end of our term or shortly thereafter could be really
Many numbers.
phenomenal. I want it to go up just like it came down to this horrible level. 1 in 10, 1 in 12. I was told 1 in 10. I was told 1 in 12. Today I heard 1 in 31 if you add the girls and the boys together.
Oh no, not the
It's
girls.
crazy. And it was 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 20,000. It's not even sustainable for a country. You want to know the truth. And there are other places that don't have it.
Yes, again.
And they have things in common. And that's called medical research. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I'm curious as you look at the trend lines,
Yeah.
how much of this is the causation of acetaminophen and how much is sort of better diagnosis, doctors, researchers having a better understanding
Even
of
braver.
what, is on the autism spectrum?
Even braver.
That's one of the canard that has been promoted by the industry for many years, that it's changed diagnostic criteria, better recognition. But there's been study after study done of that completely debunks that. One of them by the Mind Institute at UC Davis, University of California. But also it's just common sense, because you're only seeing this in people who are under 50 years of age. If it were better recognition or diagnosis, you'd see it in 70-year-old men. I've never seen this happening in people my age. I've never seen
7-year-old men
a case of
everywhere.
full-blown
So right now, I'm
autism.
going to
I'm
shout out
profound
Autistic
autism. I'm gonna be
AF
very careful.
podcast.
Headbanging,
I believe, I'm not
stimming,
sure how
toe
old
walking,
the gentleman is. He's got a
non-toilet
really
trained.
cool
I've never in my life
professional announcer
seen a
voice.
70-year-old
And not a
man who
squeaky
looks like
EBS
that.
voice like me.
You're only
And,
seeing it in the
I
kids.
think that
It's an
you should check
epidemic.
it out. No, I don't think this.
Thank you, Mr. President.
In
I was hoping that you could
good.
clear up confusion for moms and dads across America, many of
Let
whom
me try to
voted
get
for you.
a link to
There's a statement that was put out by the
website or
American
his
College
podcast.
of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and in their statement, they write, acetaminophen remains a safe, trusted option for pain relief during pregnancy, and that's at odds with what you said.
As I started yelling at the
the experts
press,
say.
yeah.
How do you
The
clear up this
establishment.
confusion?
That's the establishment. They're
Oh, there we
funded
go.
by
Sorry.
Lots of different
So
groups.
sorry. I jinxed
And
it.
you know what? Maybe they're right. I don't think they are, because I don't think the facts bear it out at all. They're fighting for something that, in my opinion, they shouldn't be fighting for. But here's the thing. There's no downside to doing, other than a mother will have to, as I say, tough it out a little bit. There's no downside to doing this. It's not like, oh, if you do this, you're going to die. There's no downside. There's no downside to going over a 4-year or a 5-year period or a 3-year period, or even if you space them out for 6 months, you space it out. There's no downside. And that's why I will say the gentleman behind me, they have very strong views, and they feel that we're right, but they'll have more research done over the next 2 months. I said, well, 2 months is a long time. A lot of people can be saved, and there's no downside to doing it. Everything I said, there's no downside to doing it. It can only be good. And I think you're going to see very good results. That's establishment stuff, and we've been reading that about a lot of things for years. And you know what's happened? We've gone from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 32 to 1 in 10. Think of it. 1 in 10 or 12 or 1 in 31. Think of it. 1 in 31 people, young kids, get autism. What is it, Jeff?
Okay, so I'm going to drop the podcast in the chat. Johnny Profane,
Have you been in touch
he
with the
says
drug
he was born in
companies to
Why don't I have the
1923.
doctor?
He's the
I'm going to throw in my
host.
follow-up at the same time. Dr.
Great
Oz
stuff,
mentioned that
great
this will
writing
be
over at
available
Medium
with CHIP, children who are on CHIP. But the
Human,
big
male,
beautiful bill reduced funding for CHIP and Medicaid
over the age
by
of
$1 trillion over the
one
next
of,
10 years. Are you
I'm
concerned
sure,
that that will impact
thousands
your ability to get this drug out?
yelling at clouds right now.
Thank you. Leucovorin is
Opportunity to
not a
say they don't
chemotherapy,
exist.
but it is a vitamin given with chemotherapy sometimes.
Yep, we
And
discussed
the
this.
idea here is that the
Again,
folic
you
acid
can
receptor
scoot
in the
over
brain
to
is
the
blocked by some antibody
Substack
response, up to
article
20,
to go
40,
deeper
50%
on
of
the
kids with
research.
autism. And leucovorin will bypass that blocked receptor. And that's why so many doctors are probably seeing so much clinical improvement on kids with leucovorin.
Production.
Yeah, we've been in touch with the companies, and they are prepared to ramp up production. And we actually talked to them about a month ago.
And on your second part of your nasty question, the number is that the great big beautiful bill, which is the greatest, I think that one of the best things ever passed in the history, with the tax cuts and regulation cuts and all of the things it does, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, all of it does. It also gives $200 million, as just explained by Dr. Oz. And I'd like you to explain that to exactly what you're saying.
The Big Beautiful Bill actually increases Medicaid spending projected over the next 10 years by $200 billion. There's also a $50 billion rural health transformation fund, which will allow a lot of these programs to get in the rural parts of the country that the president and Congress are handing to governors to start distributing. Those grants have already gone out. The money will be allocated by the end of this calendar year. And I want to point out that the ability of NIH to do research that feeds and hands the ball to the FDA, which then can change labeling to allow Medicaid programs in states to fund this program, will ensure that the things that President Trump and Secretary Kennedy desire are financially affordable for the families around America.
You mentioned CHIP, sir. That's why I asked that question. You mentioned that CHIP would fund this for children.
Well, most of the kids are on Medicaid, probably 43% on Medicaid, another 8-10% on CHIP. And all the programs in general are being evaluated. Most of what the One Big Beautiful Bill was seeking to do was to remove fraud, waste, and abuse. But the programs themselves should stay financially intact for the people for whom they were designed, and in this case, for children.
And the only thing we cut, so that's $200 billion positive. The only thing we cut was for fraud, waste, and abuse, of which there was a lot in this country, and nobody minds that. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you said that there is no reason to give newborn babies hepatitis B vaccines. But hepatitis B can be contracted not just through sexually transmitted diseases. It can come from needles to open wounds. So when you say you feel, is that appropriate to be telling?
I think it's absolutely appropriate. I think they should wait till they're 12 years old. Yes, please.
Mr. President, thank you all for being here. You've been talking about reducing autism by spacing out vaccines. Would you like other combined vaccines babies receive to be spaced out, like MMRV?
What is this again?
You've been talking.
Speak up, please.
Sir. You've been talking about reducing autism by spacing out vaccines.
Right, correct.
Would you like the other combined vaccines babies receive to be spaced out, like MMRV?
I would say yes, but that just is, for me, it's a lot of common sense involved in this. It's a process, but we're looking, but it should at least be given separately. Now, it's possible that you can reduce them and give it, I'd give them in small doses, but it's possible maybe in that particular case, the MMR wouldn't work in small doses, but you can certainly give them as separate shots. It's been proven to be very safe when you give them in separate shots instead of mixing. So I don't think there's any reason to do that. Do you agree with it? I'm not a doctor, but I'm giving my opinion. I don't think there's any reason to do that. So it's been proven to be safe when you break them up. But MMR by itself, I've heard bad things about it for many years. Yes, please.
Mr. President, is the spectrum too broad, in your opinion? For research purposes, you are dealing with a population of children.
Please leave. If this is going to be triggering, he's going to say the worst shit right now. So breathe through it or go.
We don't know how broad the spectrum is. We don't know exactly where it starts and where it ends, but we do know what we're going through. We're going through some very serious trouble, and we know autism. I mean, it could be bigger, it could be small, a little bit smaller, but the number is unacceptable. And the number, the way it's come down, because the spectrums remain the same, the number, the way it's come down is just unacceptable, meaning come down to that level of 1 in 10, 1 in 12, 1 in 31.
Mr. President, medical professionals.
Go ahead in the back.
This question is more directed towards Secretary Kennedy. It was talked about that we're just kind of finding out about.
That's when the late Jessica comes out. He's like,
that babies are
Melania
affected
told
this
me
way.
how to look thinner.
Is there a concern that information is being suppressed right now within HHS
Sorry, Doc.
and could an investigation
opinions.
perhaps be launched, seeing any more
Well, I think
information?
information has been really not given out very freely over the years, absolutely. And I think that's by drug companies and maybe doctors, but I certainly think that over the years. I think this is a different group. We have a lot of information. And that information, I mean, it's the information that we have that we're making these statements. And I'm making them out front, and I'm making them loud, and I'm making them strongly not to take Tylenol, not to take it. Just don't take it unless it's absolutely necessary, and there's not too many cases where that will be the case. And again, what's the worst? The worst is nothing can happen. It's very positive. That's a positive thing. But I don't believe I don't actually believe that's possible. I think the results are going to be amazing. I want to see amazing results by the time I leave this beautiful building. And I will consider this, I believe, you know, with the wars, I've stopped 7 different wars. I've saved millions of lives. I've done a lot of things. This will be as important as any single thing I've done, because I know ladies, beautiful ladies just like this that are going through the same thing, and it's not easy. And I admire you for being able to do it. But I admire him, too. I wish I had a face that looked like that. If I looked like him, I would have been president a long time ago.
just the beautiful ladies. So you ugly can go through it.
Widely used in other countries too. As you make this announcement, do you expect your decision may affect
I
other
hope they
countries?
follow it, yeah. I hope they follow it. Yeah, other countries are, you know, sell Tylenol. Some countries don't. I mean, I hear Cuba. Now, again, you'll have to check this out. But I hear Cuba doesn't have it because it's very expensive. And they don't have the money to have it, or they don't want to spend the money to have it. They don't have Tylenol. And I hear they have essentially no autism. So you'll have to check it out. Yeah, Brian.
Medical professionals have warned
No,
for
I
decades.
said, no, not you. You're CNN. You're fake news. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to go back to the Amish community, if I can, just for a second. I recently saw a man from Minnesota, an Amish man from Minnesota, on a podcast, and the host asked him what the rates were for like ADHD and autism, and he had no idea about ADHD, didn't know that it existed, and certainly didn't know the cases. What are they
It
doing?
doesn't exist with the Amish community. They don't
You
take
don't see
all of this.
psychologists and
It
psychiatrists
doesn't exist.
to get diagnosed.
That tells you, doesn't that tell you?
Yeah, that's what
That's
I-
like, you know, that's like certain countries where it doesn't exist and they don't take it.
There's
Would you like
nowhere
to
it doesn't
comment
exist,
about that?
bitches.
The Amish population, a very mixed group. So there's a subset that take vaccines, a subset that does not. And we know they have very low rates of chronic disease all across the board.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Should the establishment
Yeah,
media
probably 'cause
show
their
at least
diet
some
isn't
openness
40%
to,
Twinkies.
trying to figure out what the causes of autism
I wish they
are?
would, yeah.
And why are they so close-minded?
Well, they just, look, it's not only the media, in all fairness, it's some people. When you talk about vaccines, they go crazy. And, you know, I'm a big supporter of vaccines. I got a certain vaccine approved in 9 months. It would have
Again,
taken
I'm
from
so
5
sorry
to
about
12
the
years.
barking
I'm very
dog.
proud
It
of it. A
is
lot of people think
we're
it's
getting
one of the
home
greatest
time
things I've
in
done. And
Philadelphia.
some
I am
people
a
think,
mom. In order for me
mostly
to
Republicans,
participate,
actually.
I have
I'll tell you, the Democrats think it was, they think Operation Warp Speed was one of the greatest things any president has done, any president.
Define
It's,
that.
you know, we're very proud
There
of
are
what happened.
multiple lawsuits.
We got hit with something that came from a place that shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. You know, those things
And I wonder
take
if
place,
they
and
are
you're
consolidated
very
in the
unpleasantly
US
surprised. But,
District
no, I'm a big
Court
believer in
School
vaccines,
District
polio vaccine.
York.
Big believer in vaccines. I know Bobby and you guys have it out a little bit, but he's a believer in vaccines
That's
too.
interesting.
But
I notice
I've seen how
they're
great
in
vaccines
an
can be,
area
how
of the country.
incredible they can be. So I'm a believer. Yeah.
Is I'm wondering if he has any connection to the law firms involved in some of these class action suits.
Have you spoken with Secretary Kennedy about actually making those changes?
I have, yeah, I have. I've spoken to all the doctors about it, and doctors that are not here right now. I've spoken to many doctors about everything we're talking about. And, the Tylenol has started to be spoken of over the last period of time, but we've been doing the research. A lot of what they've been speaking about comes from right here, by research done by these people. And I just say it again, don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. And don't give it to your child after your child is born. And do all those other things, little things, just spread out your visits, et cetera, on the vaccine. And I want to thank everybody. This is a very important day. Thank you very much.
Will you meet with the Democratic leader, sir?
He's not going to answer my question.
At first glance, first dive in, I couldn't find any connection between Trump and the manufacturer, or the directly profiting from the Tylenol litigation, but who knows? Stay strong. I am way overdue to take my child out into the world and let him breathe, and I think you should do the same. This will pass. And if you'd like to be armed with some information to mitigate some arguments that might be thrown your way as a result of this misinformation, you can head on over to my site. And from me and Dot, have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Stay grounded. Pet your dog. Look at the trees. Look out the window. And try to just, process it the way you do. I look forward to reading all your articles tomorrow about it. So thanks for toughing it out with me. It's a doozy. And my love goes out to everyone. Be really good to yourselves tonight.